In Lesson 6-4, we're going to be talking about line plots. But first, why don't you get out your whiteboard marker, and also have your math journal there as well. We're going to start on our whiteboards with a warm-up. I have two fractions here, 3/4 and 5/8. What I want you to do is to look at the denominators. So look at 4 and 8 and tell me two numbers that they have in common. So, for example, you can write out the multiples and say, oh, they both have 8 in common. Or you can just multiply the denominators and know that 32 would also be a common denominator. Would you go ahead and figure out 5/6 and 2/3? What would be two common denominators? You could think of the multiples and see that they have 6 in common, or you could just take 6 times 3 and know that 18 is in common. Let me show you something here. If I kept going with these, they eventually would also have 18 in common. So you could also write out the multiples. All right, we're going to go into our math journals rather quickly today. I would like you to go to page 205. And you're going to notice that you're going to have to turn your journal to the side. If we were in person, I would have everybody measure their pencil to the nearest 1/4 inch. We would then stick those on Post-it notes and we would record that information. Everybody would come up and put their Post-it note on the whiteboard. So today what I'm going to do is just give you a bunch of measurements as if we were all in person. So here is our line plot. And just know that these would be pencil lengths if everybody measured their pencil. So up at the top, would you write pencil lengths? And over in this box over here, I am going to give you some measurements. All right? You don't necessarily need to write these all down. But let's imagine some kids had, let's say, 7 1/4. 6 6.5, another 6.5, 4 1/4. That person had a really short pencil. 4.5, another 7 1/4, another 6.5, 2.5, 3, 6 inches, 4 1/4, another 6, 3 3/4, 5 1/4, 6.5, 2 3/4, 5 1/4, and 5. So here's what we are going to do. On journal page 205, we are going to go ahead and plot that data. So if we look, actually, I do want you to write these numbers down. So would you pause the video and write all these numbers? Make sure you don't run into this space up here. We're going to need to graph there, make a line plot. So go ahead and write down these measurements right here in this box, please. And I'll look for this when you upload a picture of it, so make sure you're doing this. Go ahead and write down all of those lengths of pencils. Pause your video because you're going to need more time than what I'm going to give you right here. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and give a label to these numbers down at the bottom that we're going to put. So we're going to call this the very bottom line. We know that these are going to be in inches. So what we have to do is we have to go ahead and find the shortest pencil, because that's where we will start this graph. This is where we'll start it. So our smallest one, our shortest one is 3. So we would start here with 3. Then we're going to go up by 1/4. Except for I'm not going to write every single fraction because there is not enough space. So I'm just going to go, this is, just so you know, this is 3 1/4, but I'm not going to write that. I'm just going to write every half. This would be 3 1/2. The next one would be, another way to say this is 3 2/4. So this would be 3 1/4, 3 2/4. But I don't have space to write all that. So I'm just going, the next one, this one would be 3 3/4. This would be 4. We're going to go in equal increments. So the next one would be, this one would be 4. Whoops. This one would be 4 1/4. This would be 4 2/4, or in other words, 4 1/2. Then we would have 4 3/4. This would be 4 3/4. This would be 5. This would be 5 1/4, 5 2/4, or 5 1/2, 5 3/4, 6. And I'm just going to get rid of these. I just want to show you those. Then the next one would be 6 1/4, 6 2/4, or 6 1/2. 6 3/4 would be this one, 7. Now this would be 7 1/4, but notice I cannot fit all of those in there. But the next one would be 7 2/4, or 7 1/2, 7 3/4, 8. This one would be 8 1/4, 8 2/4, or 8 1/2, 8 3/4, 9, 9 1/4, 9 1/2, and ending with 9 3/4. So notice I have to go up, and if I'm going up in 1/4 of an inch, 1/4 of an inch, I have to do that throughout my entire line plot. So now what I'm going to do, and this is why I wanted you to write them down, we'll go ahead and plot these. So 7 1/4 would be between 7 and 7 1/2, and I'm going to put 1x. Cross off the measurements as we place the x above the measurement. 6 1/2, another 6 1/2, 4 1/4. Well, here's 4. Here would be 4 1/4. 4 1/2, 7 1/4, 6 1/2, 2 1/2. Oh, you know what? Let's make this, that was my fault. I did not see that 2 1/2. Let's just call this one, erase this one. That was my fault. Sorry about that one. Let's call this one 3. Okay, sorry about that, my fault. 3, another 3-inch one, 6 inches, 4 1/4, 6, 3 3/4. So here's 3 1/2. Here would be 3 3/4. 5 1/4, 6 1/2, 2 3/4. Again, I did not pay attention to that. My fault, friends. Let's call this one, erase this one. Let's call that one 6 1/2. 6 1/2, 5 1/4. Here's 5. Here's 5 1/2. So this would be 5 1/4. And 5. Sorry about making that mistake. I should have started that line and plot at 2. So question number 1 says, the largest value in the data set is, what's the largest or longest measurement? It'd be these ones way to the right here. So 7 1/4. The smallest value, the one I kind of messed up there, sorry, would be 3. A good number for the line plot to begin with is, well, I should have started with 2, shouldn't have I? But in this case, we're going to, after I change those numbers, we're going to call that 3. But you have to carefully look. See, even I make mistakes when I work too quickly. A good number for the line plot to end with would be probably 8. We have a 7 and 1/4 here, so we'd probably want to go to the next whole number. We measured each pencil to the nearest 1/4 of an inch, so we should label the number line with 1/4 inches. And that's exactly what we did. So today you're going to work on line plots on iExcel to practice this a little bit more.